Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday evening. I hope you're all well. I hope you've had a decent start to the week wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. If you are tuning in, I know it's a little bit different. I normally do the shows in the morning, but I'm starting to try and do more and more of these live evening ones as well, especially when there's plenty of fresh stuff to talk about. And of course, in this morning's show, which I recorded, the news had just broke that Al Ittihad of Saudi Arabia had come in for Leandro Trossard with a pretty big bid after the English transfer window shut. But of course, the Saudi Arabian transfer window was still open. And yeah, that was the sort of breaking news at the time, just as I recorded this video. Obviously, it's moved on a long way since then. That bid has now been rejected. So I thought I'd pop back on here, talk about that, get your views on it, give my thoughts on it as well. We'll talk about Mikel Merino. 6 to 8 weeks for Mikel Merino with that fractured shoulder, going to miss a fair chunk of games. Could have been worse. Obviously, if we didn't have a couple of international breaks, that does soften the blow a little bit. It means he's not going to miss as many games as maybe he could have done. But still a little bit disappointing as well. Lots of you already getting involved. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all tuning in for this one. Thank you very much, Bryce. Thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah, all these people coming in. Surprise notifications, says Louis. Well, I'm going to try and do more and more of these as we move forward. Unfortunately, because I've got a rubbish setup here, and I am in the process, hopefully soon, of moving house, and I'm going to have a proper, much nicer setup that will help me do a lot more of these in a much better setting. But when the light goes down here, the recording equipment I have means that the picture is not too great, and it looks pretty rubbish. So that's one of the reasons I don't do too many of these ones in the evening. Hello, Zoe from Singapore. Thank you very much for joining in. I do appreciate it. Loads and loads of you on there. And yeah, as Rick Roy Chowdhury says here, no brainer for this from Arsenal, but relieved indeed. Arsenal rejecting the bid from Al Ittihad for Leandro Trossard. Initial loan offer as well. I mean, how cheeky is that? Honestly, after the transfer window here is shut and you come in with a loan offer, with albeit an obligation to buy next summer for Leandro Trossard, just never going to happen. Really cheeky offer that. And yeah, Arsenal rightfully rejecting it out of hand. And I'm told they very much relayed the message to Al Ittihad and any other interested parties from Saudi Arabia that Leandro Trossard was not for sale. And quite rightly, because it just wouldn't have made any sense, as I said this morning, wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever to have accepted an offer like that, especially when you can't even get anyone in to replace him as well. Right, let's go through what some of you guys are saying. Obviously, as saying here, the man on the screen is very much the talking point. He's from North Bank Goona. Says, hello, Charles from cloudy North London. Yeah, indeed, it is very cloudy at the moment, isn't it? Good old English summertime. Ian says, I thought it was due to your son practicing his drums. What was due to my son practicing his drums? I'm not sure I get that, that reference there. Does start up his drum lessons again this weekend, though. So if you're around the Maidenhead area, you're probably going to hear him from time to time. Rabiot is a good shout, says Zoe. Any whispers on that? No, not at all. Is he a free agent, Rabiot? No, he is a free agent. No one's picked him up yet, have they? But I can't imagine he's gonna be coming to Arsenal. Mikey says insulting offer from Al Ittihad for Leandro Trossard. Yeah, it did not, as far as I'm aware from the conversations I had earlier after I recorded the video. It was certainly relayed to me in pretty much no uncertain terms that Arsenal had told Al Ittihad pretty much that it was an insulting offer, but also that he was just going absolutely anywhere. And Leandro Trossard as well, I think from what I heard, was not interested in the move either. Obviously, life-changing money on offer when you ever go to Saudi Arabia these days. But look, they're perfectly rich over here as well. It's not like they're not making money over here. And as far as I'm aware, Leandro Trossard was not interested at all in this move, even when it was put to him and the feelers were being put out. And so, yeah, and Arsenal adamant he was staying. Mikel Arteta sees him as a key part of his plans, and he is. Look, he started at the weekend, didn't he? Didn't play great, and come off the bench and done what he did against Aston Villa. Got a deserved start, wasn't great, but absolutely integral part to this Arsenal side. Best finisher at the club, in my opinion, no doubt about it. Ruthless in front of goal normally when he gets his chances. Can play on the left, can play on the right, can play as a central striker if needs be. Might well have to do that against Spurs in a couple of weeks' time as well because of Declan Rice's suspension. So why on earth would you consider letting him go? It just makes absolutely no sense. Haruma says it's 2 a.m. here in Malaysia. Just happened to still be awake and tuning for Trossard bid. 2 a.m. in Malaysia. What are you doing awake? Go on, go to sleep. Get some much needed kit before tomorrow. Dewey says, hello, Charles, all the way from Malawi here. Always looking forward to your content and appreciate the channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. North Bank Guna says, with Trossard, was his agent up to mischief? I don't think it was. No, I have to say, this didn't feel like an agent-led thing at all. This was just a opportunistic offer from Al Etihad. They thought they might be able to get something done for him. And yeah, as far as I'm aware, I don't think it's anything to do with agent stuff. Again, I can only reiterate what I was told, that Trossard's very happy at Arsenal. And yeah, it wasn't anything in terms of looking for a move. And I think it was just an absolutely opportunistic thing. Brendan said, Charles, your book has been out for a year. It has. Weirdly, I was looking on my Facebook memories this morning, and I saw a video on there that I'd posted, or someone had posted, of me doing the sort of Q&A from the Tollington of the book launch night. And it just reminded me of that. Oh my God, a year has gone by since then, which is, yeah, just absolutely mad. It's flashback. Murat says, does Merino really miss over 2 months? Not sure if that over 2 months. 6 to 8 weeks is the sort of best bet at the moment when you look at Merino. Obviously, you saw him in the stands at the game, did not look happy. I mean, he said, I presume that's his wife or his girlfriend that he was with. And just the look on his face watching that game, he must be so frustrated. I think he's played over 40 matches in each of his last 3 seasons for Sociedad. He's barely missed a game. And you turn up to get your big move, come to Arsenal. Your first training session, Gabriel falls on top of you and fractures your shoulder. You just couldn't make it up. So unlucky. And he just looked absolutely gutted watching the match from the stands. And, you know, quite rightly, he should be as well. And Arsenal was certainly disappointed. The fact that Declan Rice is now going to miss the Spurs game through suspension, of course, is only going to add to the frustration of Merino missing out. So, yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. You're kind of looking at the period. Arsenal are targeting the period after the second international break, which is after the game against Southampton. So if he comes back after the international break, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games he's going to miss. In the Premier League, that's Spurs, City, Leicester and Saints. And then you got a couple of Champions League games against Atalanta and PSG. And you got the League Cup game, which he wouldn't have played it. Well, actually, he might have played in the League Cup game against Bolton just to get some minutes, and as he continues to try and adjust. So it is a blow, no doubt about it. The fact he's going to be out for so long, and, you know, having just arrived, it could have been worse. As I said, the fact there are 2 international breaks does soften the blow a little bit, because he easily could have missed, I don't know, 12, 13 games if there weren't for those international breaks. So the fact there are sort of 2-week periods where Arsenal aren't playing just slightly softens the blow. But can't wait to see him. Really can't wait to see him and get himself sort of settled into the side, because I think he's going to make a big difference. I think Arsenal midfield, which I do think has been a bit of a problem so far this season, and once he can settle himself in, and I just think it will feel a lot tighter and a lot more settled. So looking forward to that. Mark has got in touch and saying, good evening, Mark. How you doing, mate? Let's have a look at who else is. And Ian saying, not going live too often. I'm going to try and do it a little bit more, I have to say. SM Planet says, why didn't we go for Osimhen? Now he is ending up at Gala. Yeah, I saw that. Osimhen potentially going to Galatasaray on loan. That's something that they're trying to get done at the moment. Why didn't we go for him? Arsenal just didn't want to go for him. Plain and simple. He was there for the taking if you wanted him. If they wanted him, the money, you know, we all knew that Napoli were keen to sell, that he wasn't going to be part of the plans, but Arsenal just didn't go for him. He wasn't on their list of targets. And, you know, I haven't been told why that is, but you just presume that Arteta, Edu, just didn't feel he was right. He was right for the club, and ultimately it's their choice. Here's one says, indeed a no-brainer. We're already short in team stock, so letting Trossard go isn't a sensible deal to do. No, absolutely. So I saw some people surprisingly on social media like replying to me, said, oh, maybe if it's 50 million, we should accept it. It's like, why would you accept 50 million right now for Trossard? You can't sign a replacement. It just wouldn't make any sense. Maybe in January, if you've got your eye on a target who you could go in and get straight away. But Trossard's such an important player. As I said, can play across the front line, the best finisher at the club, you know, ruthless in front of goal, got that real good sort of killer mentality in him. Why would you consider selling him? Why would you want to sell him now for 50 million when the transfer window is shut? I was just really surprised at how many people were saying that. It absolutely makes no sense to me at all. Alan says, hi, good to see you. Real life show, Alan from Suffolk. Thank you very much. David says, what if a bigger bid comes in? I think the transfer window shuts tonight in Saudi Arabia. I probably should have double checked that before I came on and started this, but I got a feeling the transfer window shuts tonight. So I'm not sure Arsenal really need to worry about a bigger bid coming in. And as I said, the message was firmly put out, I'm told, to Al Ittihad. Anyone else in Saudi Arabia, he is not for sale. So don't come back with anything else. Any chance that Chris Kavanagh just had a nine of his curry, as he clearly hates rice? Yes, he clearly does hate rice. I mean, I had my say in it again this morning. It's just baffled me out, the reaction to this. All the people jumping on saying, oh, he had no other choice. Yes, he did. He had so many other choices. He chose to make the decision that he made. Let's have a look, see who else is online. Tim Gunner says, hey, Charles. Mundafa is watching from Nigeria. Thank you very much. Also asking on the Gabriel Jesus injury, as far as I'm aware, and being told there is hope that he could potentially be back after the international break. He is stepping up his recovery plans. I haven't got a firm date, though, not been told a firm date. When I was speaking at the game at the weekend to someone, they were saying, well, the hope is he might be able to join in training at some point during the international break and then could have a chance for Spurs. But we'll have to wait and see on that. I think it's still pretty early days. Alex says, Charles, do you think this was rumbling on when Trossard came on and celebrated his goal in that sign away? I don't think so. Again, I've seen a lot of people sort of mention that and said, was the celebration anything to do with this? Did Trossard know that this was going on? I don't think so. But again, I can only say what I've been told from speaking to people today after this bid came in. And I was just told, look, he's really happy at Arsenal. Saudi Arabia doesn't interest in him. The money doesn't interest him. So, having been told that, I can't really imagine that his celebration was anything to do with that. I think his celebration was just clearly because he was a bit frustrated that he didn't start the game. I don't think it was linked to his future. I think it was more just linked to the fact he wasn't starting. North Banguna says, I was at the Tollington for the book signing. Great night with the Champions League draw too. Yeah, it was a great night. Fantastic night. It really, really was. Totally overwhelming night, I have to say. And so thank you, North Banguna, for reminding me of it. A year has gone by since then. Randy says, hi, Charles. Any news on Partey's contract? Will there be an extension or will he be allowed to leave on a free? I think he'll go on a free at the end of the summer. I've not had any full-on sort of been told that for definite, but again, from conversations I was having towards the end of last season regarding Partey, I'd be very, very surprised if he gets a new contract at Arsenal. I think this will be the last year. And I think it probably should be his last year at Arsenal. It just feels like it just feels like the right time. It wouldn't make any sense to me to give Thomas Partey a new contract. I don't think what we're seeing performance-wise from him and what we've seen fitness-wise from him warrants a new contract. And especially on the money that he's on, I think it's just a good time. It'll be a good time at the end of this season. Hopefully have a brilliant season. He can stay fit, he can play well, and then he can go off and get himself a big contract somewhere else for the remainder of his career. Kyle says, just listening to today's show and then saw you were live. Yeah, a little bit of an update on it. My daughter, as I said to her, I said, look, I'm just going upstairs to do a video. She's like, you've already done one today. Why are you doing another one? And I tried to explain to her that because of what I did this morning was now outdated because of the fact that the offer had been rejected, that I should do another one. And honestly, straight over her head. She didn't have a clue what I was talking about. But to be fair, she is only 9 years old. So that is not surprising. Tim says, hey, Charles, with one injury away from a midfield disaster, any quick solutions available? Maybe Rabiot on a free. Another person mentioned Rabiot, or cancel the loan of Lukonga. Your thoughts, greetings from Germany. I don't know if they're a midfield injury away from disaster. Like I said, Rice is only out for one game through suspension. Merino should be back in, 7 matches, hopefully. And it was a freak injury. It's not like he's injury prone or anything. He's very, very good, in fact, when it comes to availability, Merino. So I'm not too worried about midfield options, I have to say. And so I don't see them doing any sort of emergency or attempting any sort of an emergency fix at this point. Let's have a look, see what else is going on. AFC Cape Town says, what happened to the Ashburton Army? The Emirates are still there. They're just there in very, very limited numbers now. SM Comedy Club says, Charles, you have to watch the Rest is Football pod at 34.23. One ex-Spurs player, Gary Lineker, thinks it shouldn't have been a red and that the ball was rolling. So how could he take a free kick? Exactly. I've said it before. I'm adamant it shouldn't have been a red card for a multitude of reasons, not just the fact that the ball was rolling. There's so many reasons why that shouldn't have been a red card. Tim, This is a good point. And lots of people have said this as well. Maybe you've discussed this already. I haven't in this show, but we've discussed it before. But you said, would Mikel consider Zinchenko in the midfield? He should, in my view. I've been saying it for a long, long time. I don't understand why he hasn't yet. Maybe this is a season that we do finally see that, especially as a potential cover for Martin Odegaard or some substitute minutes for Martin Odegaard at the end of games, because he could slot in pretty well to that position, I think. And Arsenal is so well stocked at left back now with Timber, with Zinchenko, with Kivior, with Calafiori. The Zinchenko, if you're going to give him minutes, you might have to start now moving him into midfield. Something that we know that Mikel has been very, for some reason, I don't know if keen to avoid is the right way of saying it, but he's not shown any real persuasion to do it, as he seems very, very reluctant to do it for whatever reason, even though we've seen Zinchenko play well for Ukraine in that position. So maybe it is something we should see. BH Jack Schooner says Trossard, an Arsenal player through and through. Keep him. Tajay said apparently the Premier League apologised to Arsenal, but does that mean to Rice Card? I don't think I haven't heard that they've apologised to Arsenal. I don't think they will apologise to Arsenal. They'll absolutely back the referee on that one. Animal World says, hi Charles, good to see you live. Why are the Champions League games on Thursday this season? I don't know. Well, I do know. It's just there's so many extra games now. There's so many games that they've had to split some of them onto Thursdays, which is just really, really annoying. Champions League just should not be on a Thursday. I thought, you move out of the Europa League and you think you're done with Thursday night football, then suddenly you're back playing Thursday night football in the Champions League. It's just, not right to me, especially when you chuck Arsenal away from home in Italy on a Thursday night ahead of the game against Manchester City at the weekend. That is not ideal at all. Rick says, hey Charles, when we are struggling with our midfield, City is wheeling away without Rodri even playing. Not sure how to top that. Yeah, just got to hang on to their coattails with Manchester City. I'm afraid they're just an unbelievably well-oiled machine, and take away all the controversy, the 115 charges, and all of that. You do just get to an unbelievable football team managed by an unbelievable manager that are very, very hard to beat. Not impossible, but very, very hard to beat. And you just got to hang on to their coattails at this stage. Don't let them get too far away. That's why the next two games are really, really big for Arsenal. I think going into the Spurs game and then going into City away, the fact that City are already 2 points ahead of Arsenal as well, they've really got to win at least one of those games. If you can get 4 points from Spurs and City, and then you've got Villa, Spurs, and City away out of the way, and you're only like maybe 4 points behind Manchester City, you're still in the game at that point. Those next two games are very, very important. Oh, St. Lucia, what a wonderful place. Had my honeymoon in St. Lucia with my wife. Should know how many years ago that was now. Hopefully my wife's not watching to get in the mood with me for trying to work this out. 2013, 11 years ago, I was in St. Lucia for my honeymoon, and just a beautiful, beautiful island. Only, not far away from St. Vincent, where my mum is from, of course. So a very special part of the world for me. I hope you are doing well over there. Look, we've got people tuning in from all over the place. Cheeks says, indeed, the Saudi Arabian window does close tonight. Fantastic. Mr. KJ says, can we appeal to overturn the red card, as it was unlawful for Veltman to take the free kick as the ball was moving? No, can't appeal because 2 yellow cards. Can't appeal to yellow cards. Has to be a straight red. It's the only way you can appeal it. So no, Arsenal won't be appealing that as well. Stephen says, I'm really worried about our squad depth, Charles. I think we got rid of one too many in the window. Yeah, I tend to agree. I was having this conversation with someone who was disagreeing with me, to be fair, in the press room before the game on Saturday. And he was saying, I think Arsenal got a good squad. I think they're one light. I feel like they're at least one player light at the moment, certainly in terms of the attacking sense. But he was having none of it. He felt they were well stocked in all the areas. But I agree with you, Stephen. I'd have much rather have kept probably what I think Fabio. Well, ideally Emil, but if they're going to play him, but once you let Emil go, I'd have kept Fabio for the season. I have to say. Jelly Belly 100 Jelly Vision. Brilliant name. Hey, Charles, love the content. We've heard 6 weeks from Merino. I seriously doubt we see him before the December, though. Fractures take a long time to heal. I don't know, 2 months, 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks is what we're being told. So potentially up for 2 months. I think that's a fair time frame for Merino to come back And yeah, I'd be surprised if it stretches on until Christmas. I seriously hope it doesn't take on till Christmas. Alistair says, "Is there any chance, any way we can go in for Nico Williams or Rafinha for the winter transfer?" I can't think about the winter transfer window. Honestly, the fact that the summer window is only just shut, and it's just almost like a sigh of relief for the window to be shut. To be honest, I can't even bring myself to think about the winter window. And look, Rafinha scored a hat trick at the weekend for Barcelona. Nico Williams, obviously, a huge player for Atletico, not Atletico, sorry, Athletic Bilbao. That I'd be very surprised if either of those players are available in the middle of the season. I very much think it's something that will be revisited in the summer. Okay, it's an interesting one. He's not. MS says, "Is Georgie injured? Surprised he's behind in the pecking order." Yeah, I'm really surprised. We've just not seen anything of Jorginho yet this season. And if Thomas Partey was playing fantastically well, which I don't think he is. I know other people seem to think he's playing okay, pretty well. I think he's been a little bit suspect in the games. I thought he was decent at Aston Villa, to be fair. But, if he was playing out of his skin, it would make more sense to me. But I just think Jorginho's just a really good option to play, maybe not from the start, but to bring on in games. And I'm very, very surprised that we've just not seen anything yet of him this season. I'm sure we will, but he's not injured. I mean, he's been on the bench, so he's not injured, no. But yeah, I am very, very surprised. Sakaya says, Partey had a good injury record before he signed. You are very right to remind me of that as well. But hopefully Merino is not going to go down the same route. Flame Link says, Merino being out for so long, would Defo affect his chances of getting in the first 11? Potentially. But look, I think ultimately he will be in the first 11. Whether it now takes a little bit more time because he's got to play his way into the side and he's going to be coming in sort of late October time, whatever it is. But no, I still think ultimately he will be in the strongest 11 side that Mikel Arteta can go for if he settles and plays well. Obviously, form's going to dictate that as well. Kyle says Merino getting injured in his first training session and then Rice getting the first red card of his career are both the most Arsenal things to happen. They are indeed, especially the fact that Merino got injured by Gabriel falling on top of him. Very, very Arsenal thing to happen. Okay, before I cut this off, what are we up to? 23 minutes. I'll go for a few more minutes. Go through. I saw this. No, I don't think this is true yet. I've seen it doing the rounds on social media, some mocked up pictures of it. I don't think this is true, but I can't say for certain because I don't know what number he's got. I just know last time I spoke to someone about it, I was told that they hadn't made a decision on what number he had. I've seen some sort of Photoshop type versions of him with a number 10 shirt, but I don't think that is correct yet. I hope it's not. I don't think you can give number 10 to a lone player. I just don't think you can for someone who's going to go at the end of the season. No, I do think Sterling will be here for 1 year and 1 year only. But you can't be dishing out the number 10 shirt, I don't think, for a lone player. Can't see it. Sakaya says, what is it with the left side? Trossard and Martinelli both struggle. Is it because Timber inverts? I think it's more to do with the left side midfielder, honestly, to be honest. I'm not sure from what I've seen so far of Timber. I don't look at Timber and think he's out and out, a real proper attacking inverted type player like Zinchenko. He's so comfortable in that area and he plays so high up the pitch at times. I don't see Timber being the same sort of player as that. And I just think the left-hand side that I also think the left-hand side is a very different position to Arsenal's right-hand side and what they're being asked to do, especially when Martinelli's playing. You can see the plan for Martinelli and what he's being told is to literally stretch the pitch as far as possible, get on the touchline, make the pitch as big as possible. And that is Arsenal's out ball. And so when he does get the ball, often he's very, very isolated. He has to just kind of take on his man, but he doesn't have that much support around him. Unlike when Arsenal go down the right, you always have Odegaard, Saka, White, all in very, very close proximity to each other. It's very different, I think. The majority of times Martinelli gets on the board. Trossard does come inside a little bit more than Gabby Martinelli. But I do think the left-sided position is a key. The left-sided midfield position is key to it. I think when Martinelli was at his best, Arsenal was so solid down that left-hand side. You had Zinchenko and then you had Granit Xhaka, and it was just very, very fluid. And we saw the best out of Martinelli for that. So I think it's just since Xhaka went, since the left back situation became just a little bit more up in the air at Arsenal. I think the left-sided attacker has struggled a little bit. But I mean, look, Trossard scored 18 goals, whatever it was last season as well. So he clearly didn't struggle too much with it. Ian says, surprise, surprise, Dermot agreed with the decision. Yeah, I was shocked watching Ref Watch that Dermot Gallagher agreed with it as well. Let's have a look. A few more of you to get in there. Sakaya repping the Maidenhead. Big up the head. Seeing what else is going on before we get call time on this. See, it's a hard one to answer this, Am, a bit. Do you think we need a trophy? I mean, I want a trophy this season, no doubt about it. Not sure that finishing second 3 seasons in a row will do any good without a trophy. The only thing is with that is it's very hard. If you finish behind Manchester City, I mean, what more could Arsenal done last season? They were so good last season. They set so many records, and yet they still didn't win it. You can't say that was a bad season. It was a it was a record-breaking season for Arsenal. But unfortunately, you're going up against Manchester City, so it still wasn't enough. If you replicate that sort of thing this season and go pretty deep in the Champions League again this season, I don't see it as a failure. I couldn't label it as a failure because of who you're up against. So I think ultimately for me, it just decides how the season pans out. And, if Arsenal were to finish, drop off massively and have a poor season, win nothing, and just look like they were beginning to, maybe last season was the high point, then maybe you start to think about things. But for me, if they just push City all the way again, I don't think I could look at that at the end of it and think it was a failure. Unfortunately, they're just up against probably, and this is someone who sat through the Invincibles and everything, probably the greatest side the Premier League has ever seen, club side the Premier League has ever seen, and the best manager the Premier League has ever seen. So it's just very hard to compete against that lot, unfortunately. Right. Let's have a look. Anything else before we go? Let's go through. Lots of you asking the same sort of thing, so it's quite hard. I don't want to... John, what is John saying there? Oh, that's interesting. When we talked about Zinchenko in midfield, Calafiori in midfield, I've been really impressed with Calafiori so far. I don't know about you guys, but watching him when he comes on, he's just played with real character. He's got proper personality about him as well, and he looks good. So it's not just about personality or character; it's quality as well. I like how comfortable he looks, no matter where he is on the pitch, whether he's out on the left, whether he's at centre back, whether he's pushing forward into midfield. Do I see him as a midfielder? No, I can't say that I do, but I'd much rather see Zinchenko in one of those sort of midfield roles than Calafiori, but he's clearly a player talented enough to play wherever he's asked to play, if that was to be the case. But I'd be very, very surprised if that was the case. Kajinder says, how do you think Rice and Merino differ? It feels like we don't use the left-hand side for the build-up. I mean, Merino's just much more accustomed to playing in that role. I think he's going to attack the box a lot more than Declan Rice does. I think back to Declan's goal. You remember the winner he scored against Luton in the last minute last season? He scored one in the league at the Emirates towards the end of the season as well. I think it was the first goal was it Luton again? I can't remember. Arsenal won 2-0. It was one that Emil Smith-Rowe started and was man of the match. It was an own goal, and I think Declan Rice scored a header to break the deadlock. That sort of goal, similar to one he scored at Kenilworth Road, is what I see Merino doing an awful lot of for Arsenal. So getting into the box, getting to the back post while maybe Havertz goes to the near post, getting up in it, being a threat, winning duels, turning the ball over very, very high up the pitch. I think he's just that's going to be his role. And then I just think Declan's going to move back. I don't really see them as similar players from my very limited knowledge of Mikel Merino. I see him as more of Rice is going to be harrying all over the pitch. I don't quite see Merino doing that, sort of having the physical capability that Rice does. I think he's going to be much more of a sort of almost more of a static, very similar to Granit Xhaka, I would say. Maybe better on the ball than Declan, but much more of a sort of Xhaka mold than a Declan Rice mold. Okay, Sterling on the left, Adam says. Maybe it'll be interesting to see what sort of form Sterling produces when it is Arsenal. Can he push himself into the sort of running for a starting spot somewhere? Obviously, that's not going to happen on the right-hand side. So the only place he really could do it would be the left-hand side, because as good as Trossard been and as talented as we know Martinelli is, neither of those two have actually got that place nailed down. That's very, very clear by the fact that you keep sort of rotating in terms of who starts there. So Sterling comes in, does really well, scores some goals at some big moments, then maybe he can make that position his own this season. It's certainly there for the taking, but I don't think I still see him more as a sort of squad player for this season, I have to say. Jelly Belly says, would you have a double pivot of Partey and Jorginho for Spurs? Havertz at left 8 with Sterling leading line. I think it'll be Havertz at 8, but I'm not sure about it be Sterling leading line. I think he'll probably play Trossard as a false 9. Then you have Martinelli and Saka, and out wide, obviously. And then you have Kai Havertz dropping back alongside Martin Odegaard. That's what I'm predicting, but it's a long way off. Things could change, of course. But right now, if you ask me for my predicted 11 for the Spurs game, that's how it would be. It would be a midfield of Partey, Odegaard, and Havertz, and then it would be Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. Okay, everyone, I'm going to call time on this now as we're half past. We've gone on for half an hour, and my kids are downstairs, and hopefully they haven't burnt the house down yet, but I'm going to go down and check just to make sure. So thank you very much for joining me for this evening's live show. Appreciate it as always. I'll be back tomorrow in the morning with one of my usual shows. I'm going to spend that one talking about Raheem Sterling at length, that move to Arsenal, and rounding up my thoughts of what the transfer window was like as well. So please do join me for that. But until then, have a good evening, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.